Good morning, everyone, and welcome to Tuesday Tips Cut the Gibberish. Come on in, say hello if you're joining me live, or use hashtag replay if you're watching this later. And I'm so excited to be here with you today for Tuesday Tips Cut the Gibberish. And I want to clarify for some of those of you that may not know what cut the gibberish means, but gibberish is all those voices that are in your head talking to you, telling you you're not good enough or you don't need to be doing this, all those different things. I just wanted to clarify that before I get started today. Today's topic is going to be communication. I'm going to give you a couple of communication tips, especially when you're networking. It's very important to understand how the communication or conversation should go when you're talking to someone one-on-one or having that coffee chat with them. It's really important to communicate correctly. I guess I could put it that way, right? So a couple of tips. First is language. Some people may use slang when they're talking to you. They may have that in their culture where they live. I'm guilty. I'm a true Southern girl. I've been called a Southern belle, and sometimes I do use slang when I'm talking. I don't do it on purpose. It just kind of happens because that's just the way I've grown up, using that kind of word and that kind of language. But you don't need to be offended or find it offensive when someone speaks to you that way, okay? You need to explore where the other person is coming from so you can get the results you are looking for. So I'm going to say that again. Some people may use slang if that is part of their culture where they live, but you don't need to take it offensively, okay? You just need to maybe explore where the other person is coming from, and so you can get the results, or listen and get the true meaning of the conversation or of what they're saying to you, okay? I'm going to give you an example. So when you're speaking to a child, be sure to use language that they will understand. If I'm speaking to a CEO at a bank, I'm not going to speak to that person the same way I'm going to speak to my 2-year-old child or grandchild, right? That's two different types of languages I need to use there, right? So if someone is speaking to me in Spanish and I don't understand Spanish, I will not understand them. It will not be, excuse me, while I get a drink. I have a tickle in my throat. So if I don't speak Spanish and I don't understand Spanish, then I'm not going to understand them, and could become disregarding in the conversation. Not on purpose, but just because I don't understand exactly what they're telling me or what they're saying to me, right? So if someone is using slang, they may be more in a casual mood. So maybe they're trying to have a more of a casual conversation with you versus having a professional conversation with you, right? This is something we should be mindful of when we are talking to others or talking to someone else. Be sure you use language where the other person will not feel intimidated or offended or less than, okay? Use words that will help you communicate effectively, okay? And this is not just when you're networking and having those coffee chats. I mean, if you need to speak with your clients and customers like this as well, or those that you are interacting and working with, right? Because like in my business, the virtual assistant business, we definitely have to have a conversation, if we get a new client on board, with that client to make sure we understand exactly what their needs are, exactly what they want us to do, and how they want us to do it, so that we can go do the work effectively and in the way that they want it done, that's going to be most beneficial for them and their specific business, because everybody's business is different. I could do the same exact task for 2 or 3 different clients. However, I might not do it the same way, just because each client's business is different, right? And some tasks, yes, will be done the same way, but it just depends on what the task is. But there are some tasks that's the exact same task, but can be done in different ways, because of the specific business I'm doing it for. Okay. Okay. Tip number 2, interested. Be interested in the other person. You should be listening more than you should be talking. You should have a script or maybe some questions in your head or in your notes so that you'll be prepared, right, for the conversation before the conversation ever starts. You want to think in threes. So ask 3 questions during the conversation, or if they're asking you questions, make suggestions, or just depends on what kind of conversation you're having and how the conversation is going. But if you're going to prepare ahead of time for that conversation, just make sure you have 3 questions prepared, or 3 specific points that you want to speak about or talk about. Okay. So if you leave the conversation with none of your questions answered, that means you did most of the talking. That's not good. You don't want to do most of the talking. You want them to do most of the talking. Okay. So make what you say, limit what you say. Okay. And how you say it, of course, because you definitely want to make sure you get your questions in there. Okay. So you want to leave the conversation with a mutual exchange. Otherwise, there's no need to communicate. Right? So you want to make sure you understand them and their specific business, and that they understand you and your specific business. That's why in the academy, I speak about the elevator speech. I kind of take you step by step in how to create yours. And it's very important when you're creating it to be specific, because you don't want it to be long and drawn out, because you're kind of going to lose their attention. So you want it to be short and to the point, but you also want it to be meaningful to where the person you're speaking to understands it, and that you're covering all the areas you need to cover to make sure that you're covering exactly what you do within your business. Okay. And they will understand exactly what it is that you do, who you work with. There's many different parts to it. Maybe I'll cover that on another day. But the academy is a great place to learn that kind of thing. So when you leave the conversation, you want to have a mutual exchange. You want to make sure both of you understand who each other is and what each other does. Okay. Now, if you just met this person at a networking event and maybe y'all were in a breakout room together or something, you may want to take the conversation outside of the event and schedule that coffee chat with them, where y'all can actually talk further and learn more in depth about each other and your business. I mean, if you think that is a good idea, just from what you've learned in that short conversation during an event. Okay. Coffee chats are important. So, like I said, you want to leave the conversation with a mutual exchange. Otherwise, there's no need to communicate. You always want to engage with the other person more than telling them about yourself. In other words, you want to be listening to what they're saying, because there's so many people out there that they're really willing and wanting to tell you all about them, what they do, or what their business is. So if you practice being a good listener, then you're going to learn a lot, right? But you also want to make sure you get your opportunity to say a little something. I mean, you don't want to overspeak, but you do want the opportunity to share who you are and what you do, right? So you always want to engage with the other person more by telling them about yourself, and listening to them tell you about themselves as well. So when you're interested in other people, they tend to believe that you are a very nice person. Okay. They may not know a lot about you, but because you are engaging and interested in them, it's like a halo effect, possibly giving a referral or so many other things. They would be willing to do that just because they see that you're interested in them and their business and what they're doing. So they're going to think you're a nice person, and they're going to be willing to engage with you and possibly send you a referral, or, there's other other ways that you can engage or partner up and do different things too. So these are just a couple of tips about communication. If you have any questions, please comment below or send me a private message. And remember, there's no weekly live this week. I will be out of town, so I will see you again next Tuesday with our next Tuesday tips and cut the gibberish. Hope you have a great week.